Rain pounded the conference room windows on the 47th floor, turning the Manhattan skyline into blurred streaks of gray and light. Jennifer Hayes pressed her palm to the chilled glass and watched the storm swallow the city. She'd been Marcus Fitzgerald's executive assistant for 3 years. Long enough to read his moods the way a sailor reads the sea. And something, she knew with absolute certainty, was very wrong. Marcus stood at the head of the long mahogany table, shoulders slightly hunched, fingers white where they gripped the edge. His normally impeccable suit looked as if it had been put on in a hurry. Silver-streaked hair, usually combed with military precision, fell across his forehead. At 52, he moved with the confidence of a man who'd built an empire from nothing, turning a small investment firm into Fitzgerald Holdings, a multinational giant worth billions. But now, for the first time since she'd met him, his hands were trembling. "The presentation is in 20 minutes, Jennifer reminded him quietly, barely audible over the rain. "The Chinese investors are already in the building." He didn't answer. His blue eyes were fixed on the papers in front of him, but she could tell he wasn't really seeing them. The signs had been building for 2 weeks. Missed calls, canceled meetings, sentences abandoned halfway through. And those hushed phone conversations she'd only caught pieces of. Doctors' tests, numbers that meant nothing to her but clearly everything to him. Jennifer was 34. A single mother to 7-year-old twins, Austin and Chloe. Her life was a tight choreography of school drop-offs, homework, bedtime stories, and long nights at the office. She'd taken this job because it paid enough to steady their lives after the divorce from Daniel, a charming man whose promises had always come easier than follow through. The salary kept their small Queens apartment, piano lessons for Chloe, soccer for Austin. She couldn't afford to lose it. But the job had become more than a paycheck. She'd come to genuinely respect Marcus. Unlike other executives she'd worked for, he remembered her kids' names, asked about their projects, and once gave her a week of paid leave when Austin broke his arm. He'd made his fortune in real estate and tech investments without losing his humanity. His wife, Anne, had died of cancer 5 years ago. Since then, he'd thrown himself into work with an intensity that had always worried her. No children, no close family, just the company and the people who depended on him. "Marcus," she said again, more firmly as she stepped closer, "we need to go." He finally looked up, and what she saw made her breath hitch. It wasn't stress. It wasn't fatigue. It was fear. Bare and unhidden. In 3 years, she'd never seen Marcus Fitzgerald afraid of anything. "I can't do this today, Jennifer." His voice was rough, scraped raw. "I need you to cancel." Cancel. The word slipped out before she could stop it. This deal had taken 18 months of negotiations. If it fell through now, Henderson Properties, Fitzgerald's biggest competitor, would swoop in. The $300 million joint venture in Asian commercial properties was the largest deal in the company's history. Calling it off would be a disaster financially, and a public sign of weakness Henderson had been waiting for. "I know what's at stake," he snapped, then forced himself to breathe, running a shaking hand through his hair. "I'm sorry. I can't." Jennifer's mind raced. She pictured the investors downstairs. The rumors already circulating that Fitzgerald Holdings was vulnerable. The vultures circling. She made a decision that went against every instinct of self-preservation she had. "Then I'll do it," she said quietly. Marcus's head jerked up. "What?" "I'll give the presentation." Her heart hammered, but her voice stayed steady. "I've been in every planning meeting. I know the numbers, the projections, the talking points. I've practically memorized your notes." "Jennifer, you're not." He stopped, but she knew where he'd been headed. She wasn't an executive. She didn't have a Harvard MBA or a decade of closing billion-dollar deals. She had a bachelor's degree from a state college and a stack of night class credits. She was the assistant who'd clawed her way from the secretarial pool through work and stubbornness. "I know I'm not you," she said, holding his gaze. "But I can do this. I have to try." Rain drummed against the glass. The silence between them stretched. She thought of Austin and Chloe at her mother's place in Brooklyn. The mortgage payment due next week. Chloe's recital costume that cost more than it should have. All the practical reasons to stay in her lane, keep her head down, Protect the job she'd fought so hard for. She also thought of the man in front of her. The one who'd hired her when other firms saw only a divorced woman with no connections. Who'd quietly raised her salary when she was struggling. Who'd sent flowers when her father died and never docked her for the time off. The investors know me, she went on, gaining momentum. I've coordinated all their trips, handled their schedules, sat in on preliminary meetings. They trust me. If I walk in there and say you were called away on urgent business, but you've entrusted me with the presentation, it doesn't show weakness. It shows depth. That Fitzgerald Holdings isn't a one-man show. He studied her for a long beat, weighing risks the way he always did. Then something shifted in his expression. A flash of gratitude and something she couldn't quite name. You'd be risking everything, he said slowly. If this goes badly, the board will want answers. Your job, your reputation. I know, she cut in. But if we cancel, we definitely lose the deal. This way, we at least have a chance. He nodded once, decision made, and reached for his briefcase. Key points are in the blue folder. Emphasize ROI on the Shanghai properties. Mr. Chun likes hard numbers and clear timelines. Don't let them box you in on Hong Kong. We need flexibility there. Jennifer gathered her tablet and the presentation materials. Her hands were steadier than she'd expected. As she reached the doorway, he called after her. Jennifer. She turned. Thank you, he said simply. For everything. She managed a smile through the adrenaline surge. Thank you for trusting me. In the corridor, her reflection ghosted across glass walls and polished steel. She looked small against the backdrop of wealth and power. The navy dress was neat but off the rack, shoes practical instead of designer. And she was about to walk into a room full of some of the richest investors in Asia and act as if she belonged at the head of the table. The double doors of the executive conference room loomed ahead. Through the glass, she saw the delegation already seated. 5 men in flawless suits, assistants lining the walls. At the head sat Mr. Chun. His face impassive but his eyes sharp. Jennifer drew a long breath, squared her shoulders and pushed the doors open. Whatever happened next would change everything. The room went silent as she entered. Mr. Chen's expression shifted, curiosity, then something she couldn't read. Surprise? Disappointment? The men beside him exchanged quick glances. She could feel the recalculation, the instant reassessment of the playing field. Good afternoon, gentlemen, Jennifer said, projecting a confidence she didn't feel. She walked to the head of the table, the place Marcus should have stood. I'm Jennifer Hayes, Mr. Fitzgerald's executive assistant and senior project coordinator. Mr. Fitzgerald sends his sincere apologies. He's been called away for urgent business requiring his immediate attention. She let that sit for a moment, important but not a crisis. However, he's asked me to present our proposal in his stead. I've been directly involved in every stage of this project, and am fully authorized to answer your questions and move forward with the agreement. Mr. Chun leaned back, fingers steepled beneath his chin. At 63, he was one of Shanghai's most successful real estate developers. A man who'd weathered recessions and emerged stronger each time. In earlier meetings, Jennifer had learned that what he valued most was directness and competence. Miss Hayes, he said, his English precise. We have traveled very far for this meeting. We expected to negotiate with Mr. Fitzgerald himself. This was the pivot point. She could almost feel the deal slipping. She pictured walking back to Marcus's office with news of failure. Austin's hopeful face when she promised Disney World if she got her performance bonus. Chloe talking about being a concert pianist someday. I understand completely, Mr. Chun, Jennifer replied, holding his gaze. And that is exactly why Mr. Fitzgerald asked me to represent him. In Chinese business culture, sending a trusted representative can be a sign of great respect. It demonstrates organizational depth. Mr. Fitzgerald trusts me with his most important negotiation. That should tell you something about his confidence in this deal and in his team. Something flickered in his eyes. Approval, she hoped. To his right, Mr. Wang leaned over and murmured something in Mandarin. Jennifer had spent 2 weeks with a language app, learning basic phrases. She caught only one word. Interesting. Please, she said, gesturing to the screen. Allow me to show you why this partnership will be the most profitable decision any of us makes this year. For the next hour, she gave them everything she had. She walked them through financial projections, market analysis, the layout for the Shanghai commercial complex that would anchor the joint venture. She knew every number, every timeline, every risk and contingency by heart. But she also used something Marcus hadn't: personal research. When Mr. Chun questioned the sustainability features, she was ready with details about his company's shift into green construction. When Mr. Wang worried about scheduling, she referenced his successful phased rollout of a Beijing development. She watched body language change, from distant to attentive, from skeptical to engaged. They leaned in. They took notes. They debated among themselves. Mr. Chun smiled for the first time when she quoted a Chinese proverb about timing and patience, a line she'd memorized at the urging of her mother's neighbor, Mrs. Liu, who'd insisted it would impress him. By the final slide, Jennifer could feel it. The room's energy had flipped. The disaster she dreaded had become something else entirely. The terms Mr. Fitzgerald is offering are generous, she concluded. A 60/40 split in your favor for the first 2 years, moving to equal partnership when the Shanghai property reaches profitability. We propose an initial investment of $300 million, with options to expand into Hong Kong and Singapore within 18 months. Mr. Chun rose to his feet. Jennifer's pulse stuttered. Was he walking out? Instead, he extended his hand. Miss Hayes, you have impressed us. Your understanding of our business and your respect for our culture speak well of Fitzgerald Holdings. We must revisit the Hong Kong timeline. We believe 6 months is more realistic than 18. But overall, we are prepared to proceed. Jennifer shook his hand, hoping he couldn't feel the tremor in hers. Thank you, Mr. Chun. I'm certain we can work with that timeline. As the investors left, arranging details for the contract signing the next day, Jennifer's knees threatened to give out. She gripped the table, steadying herself. She'd done it. Her phone buzzed. How did it go? Marcus. She typed with shaking fingers. They're signing tomorrow. Adjusted Hong Kong to 6 months. Deal is done. 3 dots appeared, vanished, returned. Finally. Come to my office. Now. She gathered her things and walked back through the corridor, mind racing. Would Marcus be relieved? Angry she'd altered the terms? Would the board hear about it? Would any of this change her life tomorrow morning? Or would she go back to booking meetings and ordering sandwiches? When she stepped into his office, Marcus stood by the window again. But his posture had changed. Less defeated, more reflective. You changed the Hong Kong timeline, he said without turning. They wouldn't have signed without it, Jennifer replied. And honestly, 18 months was aggressive. 6 months is more realistic if we're serious about quality. You're right. He faced her fully now. You did something I couldn't today. You saved the deal. You saved the company. In the harsh light from the window, she finally saw it clearly. The weight he'd lost. The grayness beneath his skin. The deep hollowed fatigue. What's wrong, Marcus? She asked softly. And don't say nothing. I know you better than that. For a long time he said nothing. Then he moved to his chair and eased himself down, suddenly looking every one of his 52 years. 3 weeks ago, he said at last, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Glioblastoma. The doctors gave me 6 to 12 months. Maybe 18 if I'm lucky and the treatment works. The words hit her like a physical blow. She clutched the back of a chair. The presentation today, he went on. I've been having episodes. Dizziness. Confusion. I couldn't trust myself in that room. I couldn't risk, his voice broke. This company is my legacy. It's all I have left of the life and I built. If it collapses because I can't hold it together. Without thinking, Jennifer came around the desk and crouched beside him. It won't fall apart, she said. We won't let it. He looked at her, eyes shining with tears. She'd never seen him cry. I don't have anyone else, Jennifer. No family. No kids. Just employees who rely on me, and a company that will be torn to pieces the moment this becomes public. Henderson Properties is already circling. Then we don't let it become public, she said firmly. Not yet. Not until we're ready. We. Marcus repeated. She stood. Her mind was already clicking through plans, contingencies. She thought of her children asleep tonight, unaware that their mother had just stepped off a ledge. Of the risk she was taking by tying herself to a man with a terminal diagnosis and a company about to become a battlefield. She also thought of loyalty, gratitude, the kind of example she wanted to set for Austin and Chloe. Yes, she said. You trusted me today. Now I'm asking you to trust me again. We're going to fight this, everything. The illness, the company, the vultures. The next 3 months rewrote Jennifer's life. She lived in 2 parallel worlds. In one, she remained the efficient executive assistant, keeping up the facade for the rest of the company. In the other, she was quietly running Fitzgerald Holdings alongside a man who was dying. Marcus started chemotherapy the week after the Chinese deal closed. The treatments left him weak and nauseated, but he insisted on maintaining appearances. On good days, he came into the office for a few hours, attended key meetings, and played the role of healthy CEO. On bad days, Jennifer covered for him. Business trips, off-site strategy sessions, investor visits. She forged his signature until she no longer had to think about it. She learned his cadence so well she could write emails no one could distinguish from his. At night she studied his career, every deal, every acquisition, every partnership built over 30 years. Her apartment turned into a second office, files and contracts spread over the kitchen table and couch. Her mother, Patricia, moved in temporarily, taking over with the kids. She didn't ask many questions, but her worried glances said enough. "Mommy works too much now," Chloe said one night as Jennifer tucked her in close to 10. Her little face was solemn. "Are we poor again?" The word sliced straight through her. Chloe still remembered the lean years after the divorce. Pasta most nights, second-hand clothes, hushed grown-up arguments about money. "No, sweetheart," Jennifer said, smoothing her daughter's curls. "We're not poor. Mommy just has a very big project at work. It won't be like this forever. I promise." "Austin says you're going to be famous," Chloe whispered. "He heard Grandma tell her friend you're doing something brave." Jennifer kissed her forehead, blinking away tears. "I'm just doing my job, baby. Now sleep." But everyone around her knew it was more than a job. Executives had begun noticing Jennifer in places she hadn't been before. High-level meetings, strategy calls, negotiations. Some accepted her presence easily, recognizing Marcus's trust in her. Others did not. Chief Operating Officer Richard Petton took it the worst. "She's overstepping," Jennifer overheard him tell Marcus's lawyer, Howard Mitchell, outside the executive washroom. "An assistant has no business making strategic decisions. If Marcus can't run the company, the board needs to know." Her hands tightened on the folders she carried. Richard had been angling for control of Fitzgerald Holdings for years. He was efficient and intelligent, and utterly ruthless. To him, employees were lines on a balance sheet. Under his leadership, the company Marcus had built would become a cold profit machine. The breaking point came on a Tuesday in late September. Jennifer was in Marcus's home office, going through quarterly reports while he rested upstairs, when her phone rang. Howard's name flashed on the screen. "Jennifer, we have a problem," he said without preamble. "I just got a call from Richard. He's calling an emergency board meeting for Friday. He wants a vote on Marcus's fitness to continue as CEO." Her blood ran cold. "He can't do that. Marcus is still. Legally, he can," Howard cut in. "And Jennifer, the board has noticed Marcus missing meetings, seeing decisions come from someone else. They're nervous. When boards get nervous, they act. If Richard pushes for a medical evaluation, the truth will come out." After hanging up, she sat in silence, eyes on the wall of framed photos documenting Marcus's life. And in her wedding dress. Groundbreakings, charity galas, awards. A lifetime of work and love now threatened by a tumor and a power play. She could walk away, resign, find another job and protect her children from the coming storm. No one could blame her. She had already gone far beyond what anyone could reasonably ask. Instead, she climbed the stairs to Marcus's bedroom. He was awake, propped against the pillows, weaker than she'd ever seen him. Chemotherapy had stripped him of his vigor. The man who'd once dominated boardrooms now looked almost fragile. "Richard's making his move," she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. Emergency board meeting Friday. He's going to push to remove you. Marcus closed his eyes. It was only a matter of time. We can fight this, she insisted. Howard can challenge the process. Buy us time. For what? His tone was gentle, not resigned so much as realistic.
I'm dying, Jennifer.
Maybe not this week, but soon. The company needs steady leadership. Richard is a shark, she shot back. He'll gut everything you built. Then what do you suggest? He asked. And he was truly asking. She took a breath. What she was about to propose was reckless, maybe illegal, and almost certainly career-ending if it backfired. But she'd learned something over the past 3 months. She was done with the safe choice. Make me chief operations officer, she said. Promote me before the meeting. His brows drew together. Jennifer, you don't have the credentials. The board will never. The board will accept what you tell them, she said. You still hold controlling interest. And for months I've been doing the job. Let's just make it official. Richard's entire argument is that you're making bad decisions because you're sick. But if you show them you've already been delegating operations, grooming new leadership, that doesn't look like weakness. It looks like succession planning. He stared at her. At the meeting, she went on, I present the 5-year strategic plan I've been working on. I show them exactly what I can do. And when they find out I'm sick? Marcus asked quietly. Then we control the narrative, she said. We announce it on our terms, with a succession plan already in place. We show them Fitzgerald Holdings is stronger than any one person. Even you. He was silent for a long time. Then slowly a real smile broke across his tired face. And would have liked you, he said. She always told me I was too cautious, too afraid to take chances on people. But you. He shook his head, half amused, half awed. You might be the bravest person I've ever met. Or the craziest. Probably both, Jennifer admitted. All right, Marcus said at last. Let's do it. But Jennifer, if this goes wrong. It won't, she said, more firmly than she felt. Trust me. That night, driving home through the city's glow, her phone rang. Patricia. Jenny, you need to come home right now, her mother said, voice tight. There's been an incident. Daniel showed up drunk, demanding to see the kids. He caused a scene in the lobby. The police are here. Jennifer's heart dropped. Daniel had been mostly absent for 2 years, offering sporadic child support and broken promises. Now, in the middle of everything, he chose to crash back into their lives. When she reached her building, the lobby was chaos. Police held Daniel back as he yelled incoherently. His shirt was half untucked, eyes red, movements jerky. Upstairs, she found Austin and Chloe clinging to Patricia, both sobbing. He said we had to go with him, Austin choked. He said you didn't want us anymore because you were too busy being important. Jennifer pulled them close, a surge of fury rising under the ache. This, she thought, was the hidden cost of everything she'd been doing. While she'd been playing corporate chess, her real life had been left exposed. The police took statements. Daniel was arrested for public intoxication and disturbing the peace. As they led him away, he twisted in their grip to glare at her. You think you're better than me now? He slurred. You're nothing. Just a secretary playing dress-up. When you fall, and you will, I'll be there to take my kids. Later, when the apartment was finally quiet and the kids slept with tear-streaked faces against her sides, Jennifer sat on the couch and stared at the dark window. The board meeting was 3 days away. She had presentations to refine, allies to shore up, a dying billionaire counting on her, and now a bitter ex-husband threatening her children. For the first time since this began, she wondered if she'd made an enormous mistake. The morning of the board meeting arrived with a strange October warmth, the kind of false spring New York sometimes offered. Jennifer stood before her bedroom mirror, adjusting the navy suit she bought specifically for today. It cost more than anything she'd ever worn, but it felt like armor. Austin knocked and poked his head in. At 7, he'd already started trying to be the man of the house, in ways that both broke and mended her heart. You look really pretty, Mom, he said. Like a superhero in a suit. She knelt and hugged him. Thank you, baby. Grandma's taking you and Chloe to school today, okay? I have something very important to do. Are you going to win? He asked with the blunt curiosity of a child. I'm going to try my very best, she said. The Fitzgerald Holdings boardroom filled the 48th floor, a glass and steel cathedral built to impress and intimidate. When Jennifer entered at 9 sharp, 14 board members were already in place around the polished table. Marcus sat at the head, looking stronger than he had in weeks. He'd deliberately timed his chemo cycle so he'd have the energy for this, knowing it might cost him days of recovery afterwards. To his left sat Richard, expression smug, confident the tide was turning in his favor. Unease flickered on several other faces. Men and women who'd entrusted billions to Fitzgerald Holdings and were now unsure of their CEO's stability. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus began, voice firm and clear. I've called this meeting to address concerns about leadership and to make an important announcement. Richard leaned forward, hungry. Over the past 6 months, Marcus continued, I've been implementing a succession and expansion strategy. Our industry is changing rapidly. Fitzgerald Holdings must evolve. To that end, I am promoting Jennifer Hayes to Chief Operating Officer, effective immediately. Shock rippled around the table. A few members exchanged startled looks. Richard shot to his feet. This is ridiculous, he snapped. She's an assistant. She has no executive experience. No, Marcus cut in, steel in his tone. She has 3 months of running this company's daily operations. And she's done it brilliantly. He ticked off points on his hand. The Chinese joint venture? Jennifer negotiated and closed it. The Henderson Properties counteroffer we rejected last month? She analyzed it and recommended we walk. The restructuring of our European holdings? Her plan. While you were where exactly? Richard demanded. Because you certainly weren't in half the meetings you were supposed to attend. Building something larger than myself, Marcus replied evenly. Which is the point of leadership, Richard? He turned to Jennifer. Jennifer, please present the strategic plan. She rose, tablet in hand, and moved to the presentation screen. Her hands were steady, her mind clear. Every night class, every missed party, every extra hour at her desk had been leading here. Fitzgerald Holdings currently operates in 7 countries, with a primary focus on commercial real estate, she began. Our 5-year plan expands into sustainable development, mixed-use properties, and strategic partnerships with global firms. We project 38% growth with risk carefully distributed across markets. For an hour, she walked them through the vision, data, charts, trends. How their Shanghai joint venture would anchor their presence in Asia. How acquiring green building firms and partnering with forward-thinking architects could position them at the forefront of next-generation urban development. She answered every question, met every challenge. She didn't have a degree from a top business school, but she had 3 years of absorbing every move Marcus made, and 3 months of making them herself. When she finished, the room was very quiet. Even Richard, jaw tight with anger, couldn't disguise the fact that he was impressed. The question before this board is simple, Marcus said. Do we move forward with vision and courage, or retreat to the familiar? Jennifer represents the future of this company. I'm asking you to trust her as I have. Victoria Chun, no relation to Mr. Chen in Shanghai, spoke first. At 70, she was the board's oldest member and among its shrewdest. I have one question for Miss Hayes, she said. Why? Why take this on? You must know you're making yourself a target. Jennifer met her eyes. Because Mr. Fitzgerald gave me a chance when nobody else would. Because this company employs 4,000 people, and their families depend on us making the right choices. And because I believe in building something that matters, something that lasts longer than a quarterly report. A slow smile softened Victoria's features. I vote yes. One by one, the other members cast their votes. Support followed support. When it came to Richard, he rose stiffly. I vote no, he said. This is a mistake. 13-1. Motion carried. Afterward, as board members drifted out in clusters, Marcus drew Jennifer aside. There's one more thing, he said quietly. My will. Her stomach tightened. Marcus, I'm leaving you the company, he said. Not all of it, there are foundations, bequests to Anne's family, but controlling interest goes to you. Howard has the papers. She stared at him. You can't do that. I can, he said simply. And I am. He gripped her shoulders, gaze intent. Don't let them destroy what we built. Promise me. I promise, she whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks. That evening, drained and almost numb, Jennifer walked into her apartment to the smell of onions and garlic. Patricia was at the stove stirring a pot. Austin and Chloe sat at the table doing homework. For a moment, life felt almost ordinary. How'd it go? Patricia asked, turning down the burner. I'm the chief operating officer of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, Jennifer said, still trying the words on for size. Her mother laughed softly and pulled her into a fierce hug. I always knew you were extraordinary, baby girl. I just wish your daddy had lived to see it. Later, after the kids were in bed, Jennifer stepped out onto her tiny balcony overlooking Queens. In the distance, Manhattan glowed. Her phone buzzed. A text from Howard. Daniel filed for custody modification. Claims your new position makes you unfit due to work demands. Court date in 3 weeks. She stared at the message. By any measure, she should have panicked. Instead, she felt a hard, clear line of resolve. She'd stared down a skeptical boardroom and taken over a company while its founder fought for his life. She was done being afraid of Daniel's spite. 6 months later, Jennifer stood again in the Fitzgerald Holdings boardroom. Everything was different. Marcus had died 3 weeks earlier in his townhouse under hospice care. Jennifer had been there, holding his hand as his breathing slowed and finally stopped. The funeral had drawn hundreds. Executives, employees, charity partners, people whose lives he'd touched without fanfare. The custody hearing with Daniel had been mercifully short. Faced with Jennifer's financial stability, Patricia's live-in support, and Daniel's arrest record, the judge dismissed his petition outright. Daniel had left the courtroom without looking at her. She hadn't heard from him since. Now she faced the board as CEO. Not acting, not interim. The leader. The market had responded better than anyone expected. Fitzgerald Holdings stock had risen after Marcus's death. A public vote of confidence in the successor he'd chosen. Our first quarter exceeded projections by 12%, Jennifer reported. The Shanghai development breaks ground next month. We've completed the acquisition of 2 sustainable building firms and finalized partnerships with 3 international architects specializing in green design. She paused, letting that sink in. Then she smiled slightly. I'm also pleased to announce the creation of the Marcus Fitzgerald Foundation for Educational Advancement. The foundation will fund scholarships for single parents pursuing business degrees, internships for non-traditional students, and mentorship programs for people who, like me, didn't take the conventional path. After the meeting, as people filtered out, Victoria approached her. You've done something remarkable, Jennifer, she said. Marcus would be very proud. I hope so, Jennifer replied. I'm still learning every day. We all are, Victoria said, ice-kind. That's what keeps us sharp. That evening, Jennifer sat on a different balcony, this one attached to the Brooklyn brownstone she'd bought a month ago. Below, Austin and Chloe chased each other across the small backyard, their laughter drifting up in the soft spring air. Patricia came out with 2 glasses of wine and passed her one. Do you ever think about how crazy this all is? Her mother asked. A year ago, you were booking conference rooms and ordering sandwiches. Every day, Jennifer said. She watched her children dart through the grass. Marcus asked me once what I was most afraid of. I told him failure. He said that wasn't it. He said my real fear was finding out I was capable of more than I imagined, and then having to live up to it. Was he right? Patricia asked. Jennifer thought of the company, the foundation for 1,000 employees, 2 children who watched everything she did. Yes, she said. But I'm not afraid anymore. Her phone chimed. An email from the Shanghai team, asking for approval on design changes. She smiled and picked up her tablet, scanning the request. Some things never changed. There was always another decision, another problem, another challenge. But now she faced them as the CEO of Fitzgerald Holdings, a company born of vision and nerve, run by a woman who, not so long ago, had worried about making rent. Mom! Austin called from the yard, waving up at her. Come play with us. Jennifer set the tablet aside. Work could wait 15 minutes. She ran downstairs and into the yard. letting her heels sink into the grass as she chased her children. Their laughter rose up around her, light and fierce. She had risked everything to save Marcus's company. In the process, she had saved something she hadn't even known was at risk: herself. She'd uncovered a strength and capacity that had always been there, waiting for her to step into it. The struggling single mother from Queens who'd once counted every dollar was gone. In her place stood a woman who finally understood that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the choice to move forward in spite of it. As the sun set over Brooklyn, painting the sky in gold and rose, Jennifer Hayes knew one thing with absolute clarity: her greatest adventure was only just beginning.